The abyss unfolded, a stark, unforgiving blackness. The Naralik, our pride, drifted silently through space, now barely functional. I stood on the command deck, my limbs taut, watching a distant star grow larger. Our survival hinged on that small yellow sun and its planetary system. Captain VK, First Officer Nelith, approached, her voice subdued. Engineering reports the FTL drive's degradation continues. They've exhausted all options. I raised a hand to silence her. We knew the implications. Stranded in this desolate sector with failing life support, the Naralik would become our tomb. How long? I asked. Perhaps 3 cycles before critical systems fail entirely. I nodded, the weight of 200 crew members pressing on me. The Kivin Mercantile Guild would disapprove of my next action, but conventional options were exhausted. Initiate emergency broadcast, interplanetary standard protocol. Nelith's eyes widened. Sir, the Council explicitly forbids. I'm aware of our directives, First Officer, but I will not watch this crew perish due to political concerns. The communications array, one of the few functional systems, hummed to life. Our distress signal, carrying our coordinates and basic ship specifications, beamed outward. In the cold logic of Kyvan society, this was a questionable gamble, exposing our vulnerability for uncertain rescue. Most civilizations would ignore us or demand exorbitant payment, the way of a galaxy exchanging resources for resources, technology for technology. The Kivin had prospered for millennia through calculated exchanges of intellectual property, never giving without equal value. Hours passed. Automated responses from relay stations trickled in, demanding registration codes or diplomatic credentials we lacked. With each denial, the crew's hope diminished until, unexpectedly, our communication panel lit up with an incoming transmission. This is the Sol Relief Fleet. Please confirm coordinates. Arrival in minutes. The command deck fell silent. Humans. The emerging species from the young Sol system. Rumors spoke of their technological marvels, but they remained outsiders in galactic politics. Their motives were unclear. Security Chief Maroth stepped forward, facial ridges darkening. Captain, I advise caution. These humans could be scavengers seeking to strip our vessel. Science Officer Tila countered quickly, but they could be legitimate. Their system's position allows rapid FTL travel. At what cost? Nelith queried, voicing a common Kivin concern. What will they demand in return? We have little to offer except ship components, and we need those. I considered our limited options. We were drifting, failing, and desperate. Confirm our coordinates, I ordered, and prepare the reception bay. If they intend harm, they'll find us already near death. If they offer help, I didn't finish. In our experience, help always came with strings. The crew mobilized to make the dying vessel presentable. The Kyvan were a proud species, meticulous in appearance even amidst catastrophe. I retreated to my quarters, briefly adjusting my formal captain's attire, a deep blue uniform with silver rank indicators, passed down through 7 generations of my family. Back on the command deck, sensors tracked an approaching vessel. It emerged from FTL with an efficiency our best navigators would envy, decelerating smoothly as it approached. "They're hailing us, Captain," the communications officer announced. On screen appeared a human face, darker skin than anticipated, short black hair and eyes conveying authority and something unfamiliar to me. Compassion? Narilik. This is Captain Yasmin Moore of the Earth vessel Horizon. We've received your distress call and are preparing to render assistance. Please lower your defensive shields to allow our assessment team to board. I observed her intently before responding. Captain Moore, I am Turan VK of the Kyvan vessel Narilik. We appreciate your prompt response. However, I must inquire regarding the terms of your assistance. The human's expression subtly shifted. Terms. We're responding to an emergency distress call. There are no terms, Captain VK. We're here to help. No terms? I exchanged glances with my officers, seeing my own confusion reflected. Perhaps this was a human negotiation tactic, appear benevolent now, then name an extortionate price later. Nevertheless, we had no choice but to play along. I nodded to the security officer, who hesitantly entered the commands to lower our shields. "We await your arrival, Captain Moore," I said, my voice betraying none of my apprehension. "And we are grateful." The word felt alien. Gratitude was acknowledged in Kivin culture, but as part of an exchange, never in advance and certainly not without knowing the price. As the human shuttle neared our docking bay, I wondered what these aliens truly required and whether we could fulfill their demands. The docking procedure was flawless. The human vessel was sleek and curved, contrasting with Kivin engineering. Through the viewport, I watched their team preparing to board, wearing work attire and diagnostic equipment rather than the combat gear I expected. "Captain," Nelith whispered, "are we certain this is wise?" Before I could reply, the airlocks cycled open, revealing Captain Moore and her team. 5 humans in matching blue uniforms, each bearing a shoulder patch, displaying a stylized planet with a winged emblem. They carried tool cases, not weapons. Captain Moore extended her hand, a human greeting. After a moment's hesitation, I reciprocated, feeling the unfamiliar warmth. "Welcome aboard the Naralik," I said formally, "though I fear you find us in less than ideal circumstances." Moore smiled, a gesture our cultural database identified as indicating goodwill. "That's why we're here. This is my chief engineer, Dr. Kwan, and our technical team." A shorter human, with features suggesting East Asian ancestry, stepped forward, already operating a handheld device. "Your FTL system is leaking plasma from 3 key junctions," Dr. Kwan said, eyes on a scanner. "And your auxiliary power grid has sustained significant radiation damage. I'm also detecting a cascade failure in your life support's carbon recycling mechanisms." I stiffened. His assessment in seconds matched what our engineers had struggled to diagnose for days. "Yes," I acknowledged. "Our repair attempts were unsuccessful." Dr. Kwan nodded, already consulting with his team in rapid voices. Without waiting, they began unpacking equipment, devices more compact than any Kivin technology I'd seen. "Captain Moore," I addressed her, "with your permission, we'd like our team to start immediate repairs on the critical systems. Dr. Kwan believes we can stabilize your FTL drive within hours." "Hours?" "Our best estimates suggested weeks of dry dock work." "That seems optimistic," I stated, struggling to maintain composure. "We've handled similar emergencies before," she replied. "Our tools are designed for rapid deployment. In the meantime, perhaps you and I could discuss your situation more thoroughly." I assigned Nelith to accompany the human engineers and escorted Captain Moore to the conference chamber. The space, once grand, was now dimmed to conserve power. As we walked, Moore observed our ship with undisguised interest. "The Naralik is impressive," she stated. "The architectural precision is remarkable." "It has served the Kivin for over 3 centuries," I replied, pride overriding my current concerns, though its present condition hardly reflects its history. In the conference room, we seated ourselves at opposite ends of the long table. "Now," I began, "regarding compensation for your services." Moore raised her hand, interrupting gently. "Captain VK, I think there's a misunderstanding. The Earth Relief Fleet does not charge for emergency assistance." I waited for her to reveal the real terms. When she didn't, I pressed further. "Surely you expect something in exchange. Technology rights, resource claims, political alignment." She shook her head. "No, this is humanitarian aid. We respond to distress calls because people need help, not because we seek payment." "That's..." I struggled to find the right word. Illogical. All transactions have costs. Resources expended must be recouped, mustn't they? Moore leaned forward. Not always. Sometimes the act of helping strengthens everyone involved. Our history taught us that hoarding knowledge or aid creates more problems than it solves. She presented a data crystal containing schematics for life-preserving technologies, pragmatic, practical, adaptable to various environments. These are clearly marked, no license required, she explained. I examined the data package. You truly intend these to be freely shared? Yes, Moore confirmed. We only ask that you consider doing the same for others who might benefit. My hands trembled slightly as I accepted the crystal. This wasn't just technology. It was a radical proposal for how civilizations might interact. Over the following days, as human engineers worked alongside our crew to restore the Naralik to full functionality, news of our situation spread through galactic communication channels. The reaction was immediate and largely negative. A priority transmission arrived from the Duriax conglomerate, one of the largest trading powers in our sector. Their ambassador's face filled our communication screen, mandibles twitching with barely contained agitation. Captain VK, Ambassador Zorth began without pleasantries. We understand you've accepted unregistered technology from the Earth government. This violates no fewer than 17 interstellar commerce treaties. I maintained a neutral expression. We accepted emergency assistance following standard distress protocols. No treaties were violated. You know very well that's not how technology diffusion works, Zorth countered. All advances must be properly licensed with appropriate compensation to the developing entities. The humans are disrupting the established order with these charitable distributions. The technologies in question are primarily safety and life support related, I pointed out, hardly disruptive to strategic balances. Today it's life support. Tomorrow, weapon systems, instantaneous communication, FTL advantages, Zorth retorted. The conglomerate requires you to surrender all unlicensed technology received from Earth authorities for proper evaluation and licensing. Failure to comply will have serious diplomatic and economic consequences for the Kaivan Mercantile Guild. The threat was clear. The Duriax controlled key trade routes our people relied upon. I will consult with my superiors, I replied diplomatically, though in truth, I was already considering alternatives. After terminating the communication, I found Moore waiting outside the transmission chamber. Trouble? She asked, though her expression suggested she already knew. The established powers are displeased with your generosity, I acknowledged. They see it as economic warfare. Moore sighed. We expected as much. It's why we generally focus our efforts on edge regions, away from major political entities. But a distress call is a distress call. We couldn't ignore yours simply because it might ruffle feathers. The Duriax conglomerate has significant leverage over my people, I explained. They're demanding we surrender the technology you've provided. And will you? I considered the question carefully. A week ago, I would have complied without hesitation. The calculation would have prioritized self-interest above all else. But now, she prompted, now I find myself considering broader implications. If we surrender these advances, we affirm that knowledge-saving lives can be restricted based on political pressure. That seems insufficient. Moore nodded. May I suggest a third option? We're hosting an emergency conference with several neutral species tomorrow. Representatives from the Galactic Mediator's Office will attend. Perhaps the Kivin could present their perspective. The conference room was tense the following day. Representatives from 12 species occupied the circular table, with the imposing figure of Head Mediator Orlon, a centaurian known for absolute neutrality, presiding. I recognized delegates from the Duriax conglomerate and Kevel Courtiers, both powerful trading blocs, their representatives sitting stiffly, data screens forming barriers between themselves and the human delegation. This emergency session will address the complaint lodged by the combined trade authorities, Orlon began, his multi-tone voice reverberating through the chamber. Specifically, the allegation that Earth authorities are engaging in unauthorized technology proliferation. The Duriak's representative, Ambassador Zorth, rose immediately. The evidence is incontrovertible. Earth vessels are distributing advanced technologies without proper licensing protocols, compensation structures, or diffusion controls. This undermines the entire framework of interstellar commerce. Captain Moore responded calmly. The technologies in question are humanitarian in nature, designed to preserve life, ensure safety, and address basic needs. We maintain that such knowledge should not be restricted. All technology has value, countered the Kevel representative, her iridescent skin flashing with emphasis patterns. Value demands compensation. This is the foundation of galactic stability. The debate grew increasingly heated. I observed the fundamental disconnect. The established powers viewed knowledge as property to be controlled, while the humans saw it as a resource that gained value through sharing. Finally, I requested recognition from the mediator. As the commander of the vessel that initiated this dispute, I wish to offer the Kaivan perspective, I began. For millennia, my people have participated in technological exchange based on strict equivalence. This approach seemed logical, efficient. I paused, organizing my thoughts. However, the human response to our distress demonstrated an alternative paradigm. They provided assistance without demanding immediate compensation, an approach we initially found suspicious, even incomprehensible. Several representatives nodded in agreement. Yet their explanation proved illuminating. Their history showed that treating essential knowledge as a commodity to be hoarded leads to preventable suffering. Their approach isn't naive idealism, it's a calculated strategy for long-term species survival. The Duriak's representative interrupted. Spare us the philosophical lecture, Captain. The issue is legal, not moral. I disagree, I continued firmly. The distinction is artificial. Laws codify our values. If our legal frameworks prioritize profit over life preservation, perhaps those frameworks warrant reconsideration. Before the debate could continue, an urgent communication interrupted the proceedings. A security officer entered, whispering to Captain Moore, her expression darkening immediately. I apologize for the interruption, she announced, but we've received an emergency alert. A fleet of unidentified vessels has launched an attack on the orbital dockyard where the Naralik is undergoing repairs. Several relief ships have been targeted as well. The room erupted in confusion. The Doriaks and Kevel representatives exchanged glances, suggesting prior knowledge of this development. This conference must be adjourned, the mediator declared. All diplomatic vessels are advised to return to their secure docking stations. As we hurried from the chamber, Moore pulled me aside. This is no coincidence, Captain VK. Someone is determined to stop the knowledge sharing, violently if necessary. The Naralik is being evacuated to secure areas, but we need to get back. The attackers are specifically targeting ships that have received our technological assistance. We boarded an emergency shuttle, racing toward the orbital facility, now visible on scanners as a chaotic battleground. Unidentified cruisers, their identifying markers deliberately obscured, fired precision weapons at docked vessels, including the Naralik. They're trying to erase the evidence, Moore said grimly, to destroy the ships that received our help, to discourage others from accepting it. As we approached, the tactical situation became clear. The Earth Defense Fleet had responded, but the attackers had chosen their moment well, striking when many vessels were on distant patrol. The Naralik has some defensive capabilities now, I noted, reviewing the tactical display. The upgrades your team installed. Moore nodded. They're defensive only, designed to protect, not attack. and your ship wasn't meant to be a warship. I made my decision quickly. Neither was it meant to be abandoned. Take me to my vessel. Despite Moore's concerns, our shuttle maneuvered through the chaos, docking with the Nerelik, where my remaining crew had prepared for emergency departure. I rushed to the command deck, finding Nelith coordinating defensive measures. "Status report," I demanded. "Shields at 60% capacity," she reported. "The new systems are performing admirably, but they weren't designed for sustained military assault. Two other Kivin transport vessels in the dock have suffered critical damage. Can we maneuver?" "Yes, Captain. Engines are responsive." I studied the tactical display, noting the attack pattern. The unknown vessels were methodically targeting specific ships, those that had received human assistance. This isn't random, I realized aloud. This is about silencing a message, ensuring no one witnesses what we've experienced. I opened a channel to the other Kivin vessels in range. "All Kivin ships, this is Captain Turan VK of the Naralik. Form defensive formation Delta around the damaged transports. Coordinate shield harmonics according to the new protocols." The response was immediate. 3 Kivin vessels, all recently upgraded with human technology, moved into position around 2 damaged ships using the new adaptive shield technology to create an overlapping defensive barrier. "What's the situation now?" Nelith asked. "We can't hold out indefinitely." I contemplated our limited options. We didn't need to engage in conflict, we needed to show resolve. I initiated a broadcast on all emergency frequencies. As the channel opened, I spoke clearly, knowing my words would reach the station and beyond. "This is Captain Turan VK of the Kivin vessel Narilik. We are witnessing an assault explicitly targeting recipients of humanitarian aid. This violence will not silence the truth. Knowledge freely shared has saved lives today." As if in response, the attacking vessels escalated their assault on our position. Our shields flared under the barrage. "Divert all non-essential power to shields," I commanded. "We need to hold." The sentence was cut off. Fresh contacts appeared on our sensors. A formation of Earth vessels emerged from FTL travel. Their maneuvering was precise, bordering on artistry. Their arrival wasn't merely reinforcement, it was a statement. The human ships positioned themselves between the attackers and their targets, deploying advanced containment fields instead of weaponry. Rather than destroying the hostile ships, they systematically disabled their offensive capabilities, creating a zone of enforced peace. "Remarkable," Nelith breathed beside me. "They could annihilate, yet choose restraint." Within moments, the attack faltered. Unable to continue their assault, the mysterious ships began retreating. Several were captured by the Earth Defense Forces, but the command ships engaged emergency FTL drives, vanishing before proper identification. The immediate crisis dissipated, though the political shockwaves were just beginning. In the aftermath, the Naralik's command crew gathered with Captain Moore and several Earth officials in a secure conference chamber. The attackers' identities remained officially unknown. Moore explained, though the technical signatures strongly suggest links to the Duriax conglomerate's military contractors. "Will there be repercussions?" I asked diplomatically. "Yes, but proving direct involvement will be challenging," she admitted. More importantly, the attack revealed their core concern. They fear not just the technology itself, but the idea it represents. That crucial knowledge could flow freely rather than be controlled. I nodded slowly. An idea threatening their power enough to warrant military action. "Exactly, which brings us to a critical question." Moore's expression grew serious. "Captain VK, after experiencing both our philosophy and the violent response it provoked, what will the Kivin do with the knowledge you've gained?" It was the central question, one I had contemplated during the long hours of repair and diplomatic maneuvering. I looked to my officers, seeing in their expressions that they too had been transformed by recent events. "We cannot revert to our previous understanding," I stated. To do so would be to deny evidence before our eyes. The Kivin have always valued empirical truth, even when inconvenient. I straightened in my chair, finalizing my decision. We will establish our own relief initiative, starting with Kivin territories but extending to anyone signaling distress. The technologies you've shared will remain unlicensed, available to those in need. The conglomerates won't approve, Nelith warned. No, they won't, I acknowledged. They'll apply economic pressure, perhaps worse. But they attacked us today not because we were powerful, but because we represented something powerful, the potential of cooperation without exploitation. To my surprise, Science Officer Tila added her voice. The historical records we studied in the Earth Museum showed that restrictive knowledge policies lead to civilizational stagnation or collapse. The evidence supports Captain VK's decision. Even Security Chief Maroth, the most skeptical of human intentions, nodded grudgingly. Their defensive actions today showed integrity. They could have destroyed the attackers but chose to disable them instead. That matters. The following days brought rapid developments. A joint Kivin-Human declaration established the Open Knowledge Initiative, publishing full schematics for life-preserving technologies alongside a philosophical framework explaining the approach. As expected, major trading powers imposed sanctions against participating worlds. But something unexpected happened. Dozens of smaller systems, previously silent in galactic politics, pledged support. Species long marginalized in interstellar relations found in the initiative a path to technological advancement without crippling debt or political subjugation. When the time came for the fully repaired Naralik to depart Earth orbit, a small ceremony marked the occasion. Captain Moore presented our crew with a final gift, an enhanced communications array capable of receiving distress signals from twice the standard range. For the next ship that needs you, she explained with a smile. Standing on the Naralik's observation deck as we prepared for departure, I watched Earth recede, the blue-green world that had challenged everything I thought I understood about interspecies relations. Beside me, Nelith reviewed our plan. Course confirmed. We've received 7 distress calls from the outer systems, Captain, all from locations where assistance is typically unavailable due to commercial restrictions. Set course for the nearest, I instructed, and prepare the engineering team to assess what's needed. Sir, she hesitated, this new path won't be easy. The Mercantile Guild has already expressed serious concerns about our intentions. No, it won't be easy, I agreed, but difficulty doesn't indicate error. Sometimes it indicates the necessity of change. As the Naralik engaged its engines, I reflected on the chain of events that had brought us here. We had arrived desperately seeking repairs, expecting at best a costly transaction. What humanity gave us instead was beyond our wildest dreams. Not just restored systems or advanced technology, but a fundamentally different vision of how civilizations might relate to one another. A vision worth protecting, worth spreading. Captain, the communications officer interrupted my thoughts. We're receiving a joint transmission from the Horizon and several other Earth vessels. On screen, I saw Captain Moore and her crew standing alongside officers from several other ships. Safe journey, Naralik, Moore said. Remember, you're not alone in this endeavor. When you answer those distress calls, you carry with you not just Kivin wisdom, but a shared commitment. I nodded, feeling a profound sense of purpose that transcended profit calculations or political advantage. Until our paths cross again, Captain Moore, I replied. The Kivin will remember what we learned here. As the transmission ended and the Naralik accelerated toward its new mission, I reflected on the radical notion the humans had shared, that sometimes the most valuable exchange isn't a transaction at all but a transformation. In our darkest hour, when we arrived simply seeking repairs, what we received instead was a new vision for the galaxy,